Joining us now, you know him. He was our Attorney General. He ran for governor, got beat by a whisker. I always said if the election was another 7 days out, we'd be calling him Governor Cuccinelli right now. Now he's with the Senate Conservatives Fund. Mr. Attorney General, great to have you with us.
Good morning, John. Good to be with you.
Merry Christmas to you and
well,
Tara,
and you as well.
family.
I noticed the Christmas countdown, which is a question my 5-year-old asked. How many more days till Christmas? Well, maybe I got to get my 5-year-old to listen to the John Fredericks Show.
That's
He'll
right.
know every morning.
We do it because we get a little time off, so we're kind of fired up by at 8:13. Mr. Attorney General, I'm going to get right to this crumulous bill. I don't even know how you say it. Omnibus bill, crumulous bill. But it looked to me like the Republican leadership just basically sold out to lobbyists, banksters, tarpists. I mean, this thing was a cornucopia of big money lobbyists, big corporatist bailouts. And I just can't believe this thing went down without a battle.
Yeah, John, I appreciate that perspective, and I would agree with you. And just it's almost a side comment from the Cromnibus, but your corporatist comment. You know, there are times when American-minded conservatives and American-minded liberals agree, and I'll point out one in the Cromnibus. You know, y'all probably watched Elizabeth Warren make her noise on the left as well. But if you looked closely at the provision, the Dodd-Frank provision that she was upset about, she was right.
Absolutely.
And your listeners may not have paid attention, but let me note, because it affected the voting, what they also included in this bill, and this was a Democrat versus Democrat provision, by the way. Mm-hmm. This was with the Dems running the Senate. What they did was they basically put taxpayers on the hook to insure big banks' derivative trades. Mm-hmm. Well, why on God's green earth should we be insuring their this is like a little piece of too big to fail. Mm-hmm. We should not be taking on this risk. We should be getting rid of it. It's the parts of Dodd-Frank that should be undone, is taxpayers essentially holding the bag for bad bank decisions. They were right about that. That is a classic corporatist provision, like you said, John, that totally abandons the little guy. And conservatives ought to be for the little guy, and a lot of us are. But the Republican leadership, while not conservative, is also not for the little guy. And that is reflected massively in this bill. But neither is the Democrat leadership. So there's a bit of an you can call it little guy versus the corporatist. You can call it insider versus outsider. There's a lot of ways to look at it. There were a lot of other things in this bill. And another one, not quite corporatist, John Boehner's district does a lot of work refurbishing tanks. Well, there's $120 million in this bill to refurbish tanks that the Army doesn't want, that the President doesn't want. We're literally refurbishing tanks just because John Boehner wants to plug the money in. We'd all be a lot better if he just gave whatever company it is $5 million for profit to stick in their pocket. Than spending $120 million doing work that nobody wants, because the tanks are all in good shape. People don't know that, but one thing after another like that is stuck in here. But God forbid we actually try to protect the Constitution from the President's act. They refuse to do that.
Ken Cuccinelli now with the Senate Conservatives Fund. Want more info, go to senateconservativesfund.com. Mr. Attorney General, I just had Congressman Ridgel on the air. We gave him 20 minutes to explain why he voted in favor of this bill. One of the things that he challenged me on, when I said that I would have just done a 90-day continuing resolution, a CR, and then you would have been able to debate all of these riders. And Mr. Attorney General, had any of these come out in the open, any of them, they all would have gone down. Every single one of them would have gone down in flames. Every single one would have gotten defeated and blasted. Nobody would want to put their name to any of this crap. But it's all in this one big bill. It's all packaged for the lobbyists. But now I want to get to the other thing.
John, don't just blame the lobbyists. I mean, they were buying off members' votes with various provisions.
Right. So it's just
They
basically
stuck stuff in there to get votes.
Cruz said it was payday. Is he right?
Oh, sure he was. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to your further point, Harry Reid isn't going to be the majority leader in a month, but we let him budget for a year of this government. A year. He controls the budget for the federal government through the end of September for just about everything except the Department of Homeland Security for a year. 10 months of which he will not be the majority leader. It's an incredible, incredible error. And all they had to do to get a shorter one was defeat the Cromnimus. The no vote was the right vote, and your congressman didn't make that vote.
Now, he said that he challenged for just doing the 90-day continuing resolution, then get back. You have a bigger majority in the House. You gain control of the Senate. Then you can debate this thing legitimately without the time pressure machine gun to your head over the shutdown. But he said that would have been the wrong move because you would have continued funding the government at the current levels. How do you respond to that?
And so instead, we've increased it. I mean, if we flat-funded government, meaning you don't increase anything, that's about as good as we can do for the small government people. I mean, right now, it would be nice to shrink it, but with this president, that's going to be awfully hard to do. I don't understand why that would be something to complain about. And the reality is, look at this tactic. They've known this was coming since Election Day. The Republican leadership intentionally waited literally until there were only hours left until the budgeting ran out, right? Mm-hmm. They could have brought it a day before. They could have brought it a week before. But they intentionally didn't do that so that it was a fait accompli, and a lot of people would say, oh, well, we didn't have any time to do anything else, as if that was out of anybody's control. And as long as the tactic keeps working, the leadership will keep doing it. And as long as congressmen who want to say they would have liked a better bill and so forth keep voting for this leadership tactic, the longer it will keep happening. One wonders, how many of them feel how strongly about what's in this bill. It's a little hard to get at motives, and I don't really want to do that. But this bill should have been voted down, and they should have been forced to go draw up another one. But even before that, the procedural vote, John, which I did write about in my Cuccinelli Compass,
right.
That vote was 214 to 212, and a tie vote is a loss. And so your listeners understand the rule is voted on. The rule under which the bill will be considered is voted on first, and the rule that came out of the leadership didn't allow consideration of or a vote on defunding executive amnesty. It didn't even allow it. So this is our new open debate Republican leadership, right? Didn't allow it, and only 16 Republicans voted against that rule that didn't allow the defunding even to be attempted of executive amnesty. Dave Bratt was the only Virginia Republican who voted against that rule. If only one other of them had voted against the rule, we'd have had an open debate, and there would have been the opportunity to vote on defunding executive amnesty. Every single one of them that voted for that rule, voted to shut down debate on executive amnesty, and each one of them were the tie-breaking vote to foreclose consideration of executive amnesty.
And then there was one congressman, I can't think of his name offhand, I had it just Sunday, that said that Speaker Boehner lied to him about that vote and how they would go forward with it in order to get that passed, because it only passed by one. Mr. Attorney General, page 1605 of this 1,606-page bill, get this. So there's a provision in there, Mr. Attorney General, basically allowing Blue Cross Blue Shield, one of the biggest insurance providers in the country, who are getting all these new customers in, the majority of them funded by the government. The others have to come in or they pay the fine, jacking up rates. I just got another $300 increase. And the only consumer protection that Obamacare had in there was that companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield could not exceed a 15% margin. So they took that out. So I'm getting a $300 increase on top of the $300 increase I got when they canceled my other insurance. And there's a provision in there allowing Blue Cross make millions and millions of dollars over what it was said they could make. How does this make any sense?
Well, not only that, no one else none of their competitors are allowed to do that.
Right.
None of them. I mean, it makes no sense. The only sense you can say it makes is it makes sense for their lobbyists. It was a good deal for their lobbyists.
Right.
I mean, that's one to run down. And like you said earlier, John, if you voted on these things one at a time, they'd go down in flames. In fact, they'd never come up because something like that is literally too embarrassing for a congressman to put his name on. It's
Absolutely.
too embarrassing.
Yep.
It's outrageous. It's thievery from the American people. And that's what was voted for in this Cromnibus. That's what a yes vote supported. Yes, it kept the government going, but frankly, that was going to happen anyway. They should have forced a better bill by voting no on the rule and voting no on the bill. And every single one of them that voted with the leadership on the rule for this bill was the tie-breaking vote to stop consideration of defunding executive amnesty. At Senate Conservatives Fund, what we're doing about it, before this vote came up, we told our members, if you all will commit donating money, we'll run radio ads if they do the wrong thing. And we're going to run ads in John Boehner's district this week, in Kevin McCarthy's district this week, and in Steve Scalise's district this week. If not more of the Republican leadership in the House where this battle was. Anybody who wants to help us do that, go to SenateConservatives.com and donate. The money goes entirely to this ad campaign. Accountability is important. They will have other chances to try to perform makeup calls. They should have done it here. And we all heard, by the way, those of us meeting with folks in Capitol Hill, no, let us just do this, and we'll fight it later. And if I could count the times where they've said that, if I got a dime for each time, of course, I'd be a millionaire. But at some point, they've got to actually do it. And every chance is an opportunity, and they always come up with a reason not to do it. So join us at SenateConservatives.com to provide some accountability in their home districts, the place where they like it the least. Ask Eric Cantor. I mean, this was an issue that was critical to Dave Bratt's defeat of Eric Cantor. And also, it was a wake-up call that it could actually do that. So we're getting in each of these folks' districts to start laying that groundwork now.
All right, so go to SenateConservatives.com, SenateConservatives.com. If you got a little money before Christmas, send them a check so they can run ads, leadership's district. Because, look, at the end of the day, that's all anybody responds to anyway. Aside from that,
when you do it in their district, John, they really, really respond. It's a big deal.
Mr. Attorney General, anything else for those? Because on our show, our calls and texts and emails are running, what, Courtney, against this? 50 to 1, 75 to 1. I mean, we can't keep up with it. A lot of people upset over this. They feel betrayed. What is your advice to them?
Well, my advice is let your congressmen and senators know. Don't leave them out of the mix. Both Kane and Warner voted for this Cromnibus, and they didn't do anything to press any of the votes we're talking about. Let's be really clear about that. The other thing that I think you may see come out of it, and I raised the Bratt-Cantor race for a purpose, is things have reached the boiling point with a lot of grassroots folks. It would not surprise me if you started to see primary challenges inspired by these votes. That is a very real possibility. My saying it doesn't make it any more or less likely. So it doesn't start with me. It starts with their votes. The disconnect between the people in Washington, including some of those who arrived recently and said, I'm going to bring a new voice to Washington, and have fallen right into what everybody else in Washington is doing, and the American people, is enormous. And that is not just on the Republican side of the aisle. That's why you saw the liberal revolt over some of the giveaways. Some of them, in fact, are sensitive to the corporatism, although I would put an asterisk next to that. I have a funny feeling that if the giveaway was to a bunch of wind farm owners, things would have been very quiet on the Democrat side. I think the right position is to give nothing away to the corporatists, to not make it a subject of rewriting budget bills and selling out the American people to any special interest. I used to kind of surprise some people who came to my electricity town halls when I was Attorney General in Southwest Virginia, and they'd get up and say, I think you need to stop subsidizing these energy companies. And I would say, I agree. And I'd have this angry environmentalist staring at me like, you do? But we need to be consistent, and certainly consistency has not been a hallmark of how the leadership of either party has operated in Washington. It's really been kind of embarrassing for America.
That is going to be the final word, and that is spot on. And we want to thank Ken Cuccinelli for being with us, former Attorney General of Virginia and almost governor. I'm one of those people that believe if the election were 5 days out, he would have won. Always great to have you, sir. For more info and to get involved and send a check so they can run ads, go to SenateConservatives.com. SenateConservatives.com. Money is tight, but if you can spare a couple dollars, it's going to get people's attention. Thanks for being with us, sir.
Absolutely, John. Thank you.